and how are prices determined under the process of book building. Now we look at some of the changes by SEBI in the norms of book building. So, as discussed earlier, book building is one of the most famous methods or most popular methods through which the companies are raising funds through in the primary market. Now, there are two routes to book building. A company can go for 100% book building, or it can go for 75% book building. Think, yes, here in this slide, 100% book building may 50% is for institutional investors, 50% of the issue, 35% for retail investors, and 15% for HNIs. HNI stand for high net worth individual. Now, who's a retail investor for an IPO? Who is a retail investor? How do you define a retail investor? Anyone has any idea? What is the criteria to differentiate a retail investor from a HNI? HNI is high net worth individual. Parth, I didn't get your response. You can unmute yourself. Average investors, but then there is some measure. There are many average investors who fall in the category of HNIs also. So there is a criteria on basis of which this differentiation takes place. Now, share applicants who apply for an amount less than 2 lakh are, yes, Kabir, you're right. If retail investor is applying for an amount more than 2 lakh of the paid up capital, then that person becomes a high net worth individual. So retail investors, they apply for an amount which is less than 2 lakh in an IPO. HNIs move for an amount which is more than 2 lakh, and institutional buyers who are known as QIBs, qualified institutional buyers, they are specifically registered financial institutions with SEBI who get an allotment of 50% of shares if the company is going for 100% book building route. Again, if in any category the shares remain unsubscribed, then that percentage of undersubscription can be passed to the other categories. So this was 100% route. There is also 75% route of book building. 75% का मतलब है 75% shares book building से उनका issue price decide होगा, and the remaining 25% is at a fixed price issue. So in that case, 60% is the limit for QIBs and 15% is for HNIs and retail investors. So coming to the back to the rules related to book building, already discussed that if the applicant is unsuccessful in getting an allotment of shares, then within 15 days from the date of closure of the issue, the amount should be refunded back to the applicant. And if the company fails to do so, then there is a penalty, there's an interest to be paid at the rate 15% per annum. Now, the ease or popularity of book building is such that it is not only used at the time of issue of shares but also at the time of buyback of shares. buyback of shares, and that method is known as reverse book building. So there are two terms I'm using here. One is buyback and second is reverse book building. What is buyback of shares? Literal meaning buyback of shares. Yes, anyone?
The company buys
Yes.
back its shares.
Yeah, simple. Companies buying back the shares from the open market. Yes, Piyush has added correctly. What the company does is that the shares already listed in the market are bought back by the companies. Now, not necessarily at premium, or obviously if you're going for reverse book building, there I'll explain you that yes, they are the offer to the public, to the already existing holders is given at premium. But what is the purpose behind buyback? Why would a company go for buyback of shares?
It gives the company more equity.
Yes, more equity, more control, more centralization. So, if at any point of time the company feels okay, I have enough cash resources with me, then the company can take this decision in consideration that buying back of shares will increase the concentration of ownership. Okay, and reverse book building is one of the methods through which buyback of shares can take place. Yes, Parth, you said that premium pay offer hota hai buyback ki option, which makes sense also. Only then people will be ready, the investors will be ready to sell these shares which they have with them. रिवर्स बुक बिल्डिंग में जैसे बुक बिल्डिंग में प्राइस बैंड डिफाइन होता है, वैसे ही रिवर्स बुक बिल्डिंग में भी कंपनी पोस्ट अप्रूवल फ्रॉम सेबी defines a price band to receive the bids from investors, from shareholders who are ready to sell the shares to the company. तो बुक बिल्डिंग में क्या हो रहा था? एप्लीकेंट्स थे हु वर रेडी टू बाय शेयर्स फ्रॉम द कंपनी. रिवर्स बुक बिल्डिंग में शेयर होल्डर्स हैं हु आर रेडी टू सेल द शेयर्स टू द कंपनी. दे विल गिव their decided price and the amount of shares or the value of shares they want to return back to the company. तो जैसे बुक मेंटेन होती है सिंपल बुक बिल्डिंग प्रोसेस में, यहाँ पर भी वही हो रहा है. दी ओनली द ऑब्जेक्टिव इज डिफरेंट. एंड देन ऑन वेटेड एवरेज प्राइस मेथड the buyback price of the shares is decided. Again, that can be at premium or that can be at par also, depending on what response the company has got from the market. So, this is a more transparent and a more viable price discovery method because the price issue price reflects the market sentiment towards the shares of the company. Okay, so moving further, you are seeing a table on the screen which is simply giving you the difference between fixed price issue and a book building issue. We have already discussed in detail that fixed price जो offer price है वो issue के time ही company define कर देती है, but in case of book building a price band is given. Demand is known on daily basis in case of book building issue. डेली या रियल टाइम बेसिस पे जैसे जैसे बिड्स आ रही हैं आपको क्लैरिटी मिल रही है ऑफ द डिमांड फॉर योर शेयर. बट इन केस ऑफ फिक्स्ड प्राइस इशू इट इज ओनली एट द क्लोजर of the issue that you get to know okay how much is the demand for the share. After that, both book building and fixed price issue They are 100% application supported by blocked amount. तो पहले भी आपको बताया था कि जब तक शेयर अलॉट नहीं होता कंपनी शेयर एप्लीकेशन मनी यूज नहीं कर सकती. And then what is the reservation? For 100% book building, 50% institutional, 35% for retail, and remaining 15% for HNIs. While in case of fixed price issue, 50% are reserved for applicants below 2 lakh. So this is how you differentiate the two types of issues. Then, very simple general topic, what steps has SEBI taken to protect the interest of the investors in the market? The SEBI is creating awareness, revising the rules, making sure all the three parties in the market, issuer, intermediary, and investor, their interests are protected. Revision in rules have been brought about. These are some of the steps which have been taken. First and foremost, a company has to mandatorily make all the disclosures which can influence the decision making of the investor. Company needs to get the prospectus cleared by stock exchange, listing का approval चाहिए, SEBI का approval चाहिए. The prospectus should be signed by all the directors and filed with the registrar of companies, and SEBI is also taking steps for quick redressal of investor grievances. So these are some of the reforms which have taken place in the primary market over the years. Then IPOs are coming through the online route, and this is in compliance with section 55 of the Companies Act. All the approvals need to be taken prior to online issue of IPO. Okay, so just understand the crux of the term online IPO. Next term used is ESOPs, which is an employee stock option plan. So, what is an ESOP? What is the purpose behind issue of ESOP? Can anyone explain in simple terms what is a ESOP? Yes, यशवर्धन आप बताओ ESOP क्या होता है?
मैम मेरे को जितना समझ में है कि ईसॉप इसलिए किया जाता है ताकि पहली बात तो कंपनी से जितनी भी प्रॉफिट होती है वो एम्प्लॉय को बेनिफिट करे, और इनसाइडर ट्रेडिंग का शायद चांसेस कम हो, क्योंकि हमने पढ़ा था सेबी में, मतलब हमने जब सेबी विजिट की थी उसमें बताया गया था कि इनसाइड वो एम्प्लॉयज तो शायद डायरेक्ट स्टॉक खरीदने का अलाउ नहीं करते या कुछ था, जिससे टर्न वो इनसाइडर ट्रेडिंग का चांसेस कम हो जाए, ऐसा कुछ था मैम.
Okay, okay. Does anyone want to add anything?
Also, maybe to keep the employees within the company by giving them additional benefits by providing them stock options for the same.
Yes, yes. That is also one of the reasons that the company wants to increase the loyalty of the employees. So it is offering them shares, making them part owners. Yes. So ESOP is awarding stock to the employees of the company. Now, when we talk about a company form of organization, then there is a term used with that which is known as agency problem. Manvi, please mute yourself. Okay, so again, if anyone has any idea what an agency problem is, Now, if someone wants to explain the term, now in a company form of organization, the management is different from the owner. The owners are the ones who are having, say, if it is a listed company, then the ones who are holding the equity shares of the company, while they can be promoters in case of non-listed companies. On the other hand, management is one which is handling the day-to-day affairs of the company. So the board of directors, they represent the equity shareholders, and then they are enabling day-to-day working by taking the decisions in the company. Now, at many points of time, there is a conflict between owner and management because they are working on different objectives. Owners will want high profits, high market price, तो share maximum जो wealth maximization और profit maximization आपने objective करा था, that would be the prime objective of the owners. While people who are managing are already getting their fixed packages from the company, जो सीईओ है या सीएफओ है कंपनी में, मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर है, they are already getting a fixed package. So what they target is a decent performance. Okay, but aspiration of owners are quite high. They would want maximum and most profitable performance. So, because of divergence in their objectives, and obviously there's divergence in views also, there can be a conflict which is known as the agency problem. It is an agent who represents a principal. तो जब एक सेल्समैन एक कंपनी का प्रोडक्ट सेल कर रहा है, then he or she is representing the company. तो एजेंट प्रिंसिपल रिलेशन होती है, उसी तरह मैनेजर जो है वो ओनर्स को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है. दैट इज व्हाई दिस प्रॉब्लम इज नोन एज द एजेंसी प्रॉब्लम. Now, one of the most effective ways in which this problem can be minimized is by allotting ESOPs to the managers, to the employees of the company. Now, when they become part owner of the company, their interest in the effective performance of the company improves. They are more motivated to make sure that the company is performing to the best of its potential. So, the basic idea behind ESOPs was that yes, to make them owners, reduce the agency problem, and then second priority was to retain the people who are valuable to the company, good employees. They should be rewarded and they should be retained with the company. Now, ESOPs obviously motivate the employees to work more. And generally, if I talk about today's time, ESOPs is more prevalent in startup companies. Now, startups are not directly able to offer very good packages, so they give ESOPs to their employees. Now, there are certain rules related to ESOPs. Obviously, you need the approval of SEBI for that. And apart from that, the companies, they keep a lock-in period for sale of ESOPs, which means that it's not that you receive ESOPs today, you sell the shares tomorrow, and you leave the company a day after. Company generally keeps a lock-in period of a minimum of 1 year between the issue of ESOPs and the sale of ESOPs, so as to ensure that the employees retain for a minimum of this duration with the company, generally given to employees who have served the company for a certain time duration. Okay, and usually such shares are allotted from the promoter's quota or any shares that have been bought back from the market. So, uh, what would be the disadvantage of ESOPs to the existing shareholders? We have discussed only the advantages, but there are certain disadvantages with ESOPs also. What do you think will be the disadvantage to the existing shareholders? Anyone make a guess? Yes, think डिसएडवांटेज क्या हो सकता है? Less number of shares to buy for existing shareholders. थोड़ा और सोचो. Yes, Kabir, what can be a disadvantage? Anyone think of it? What is ESOP doing? It is increasing the supply of shares in the market. Okay, and that excess supply can also have a negative impact on the share price. And yes, the Manvi absolutely correct. The basic disadvantage is that there is dilution of ownership in case of existing shareholders, because now the number of shares in the market has increased, so their percentage holding in the company will also reduce. So that is why existing shareholders might not be very comfortable with the idea of company coming up for ESOPs. Though the approval of existing shareholders is mandatory. So these are some of the resolutions which are passed in the board meetings, and it is only after getting the approval of the shareholders can the company go for an ESOP. Okay. After that, the next term that we discuss is a disinvestment. So I also asked you people to read about Balco disinvestment. So this was one of the earliest disinvestments and the most controversial disinvestment decision taken, under which government decided to privatize Balco. Under which government was Balco disinvested? Was it NDA or was it UPA? Yes, Manvi says NDA. What about others? Have you people not read about Balco? Yes, Ayushi, have you read about Balco? Anurag? So it was the NDA under which Balco was privatized, and who was the acquiring company? Which company has acquired Balco? Sterlite. Okay, Manvi, do one thing. I think you have read about Balco in detail. So first you brief the class about Balco disinvestment.
Right, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, Balco was incorporated in 1965, which had a very close association with the growth of the Indian aluminium industry.
Yes.
And Balco was vertically integrated from sourcing of bauxite from its captive mines and refining and smelting to aluminium production in a variety of semi-finished products. So it was a major supplier for nations' intermediate range ballistic missiles such as Agni and surface to surface missile Prithvi. Now, mentioning all of these aspects is meant to justify the fact that Balco was one of the most important entities that there existed in the growth. So in February 2001, the government of India stuck its first investment deal in the fiscal year of 2000 to 2001, and it approved the sale of its 51% stake in aluminium major, that is Balco, to Sterlite Industries Limited for rupees 551.5 crore, and they apparently made a profit. Balco was a profit-making public sector company under the Ministry of Mines. So Balco had in 2000, Balco had a turnover of 898 crores and a profit after tax of rupees 56 crores, which justified that it was making a lot of profit for the government of India. And it had two working units, mainly based in Chhattisgarh, with a workforce of 7,000 people. So the opposition launched a massive attack accusing the BJP government of selling out to private interests. Also, the Chhattisgarh Chief Minister Ajit Jogi allegedly said that the 100 crore setback in the sale involving key officials would affect them highly. And he also made a statement wherein he said that the deal was like loot of Chhattisgarh in a day broad light. So there were four stages that were discussed in the case study that was mentioned. So first stage was a tug of war wherein big players like Aditya Birla Group Company, Hindalco Limited, and Sterlite were there in the race to acquire the 51% of the company. And then there was the controversy wherein it was said that there was a niggling doubt over the deal, which seemed to be reflection on the lack of transparency, because the reserve price was also not declared up until later by SIL in 2004, near around the same area. So reserve price was not disclosed, nor the value of the bids by Hindalco and Alcoa, which were also in the running. So debate happened because opposition demanded a joint parliamentary committee for the Balco deal. So the government of India rejected the demand, and it went out. The entire opposition went to the Rajya Sabha. Then, after everything was happening, Jogi continued to salivate against the same and demanded a parliamentary probe, which was rejected later. Also, the workers weren't happy because it was dubbed as a face-saving exercise. They were like that they could have bargained very easily to get a better deal, and it was also mentioned that they were not satisfied up until later because of the plans they were offered, given that for 1 year they won't be kicked out of the company, but they did not receive the said packages that were given to them. So the worker union also took the case up ahead, and it's still not settled because a lot of them had to give bribes to the officials to at least get the assigned money that they were allotted. So this was the case.
Okay, so Manvi, you have covered most of the details, like what was the entire process, how much of the opposition chaos was created, and then somewhere the employees were also involved. They were not very happy with the disinvestment decision. Now, in simple terms, class, disinvestment, we have discussed the term, means that the government owned entity is being the government ownership is being given up in a PSU, and it is being passed on to private owners. So government is reducing, it is selling its equity stake in its PSU, and the entire purpose behind this is that the government feels that one, yes, private ownership might lead to better performance, or that PSU is a loss making PSU, and it can be revived only after it getting passed in the private hands. Then raising funds, generation of funds is another objective behind this, and with these objectives in mind, disinvestment process is initiated, targets are kept for every fiscal. Especially if I talk about the NDA government, it is a very pro disinvestment. That is why every year some budgetary allocation is defined for the disinvestment target. Allocation, no, I would say budgetary targets are set for disinvestment. Now, if I specifically talk about Balco, because till date it is marred by controversy that this was not a right decision. Today, the owner is Sterlite Group, and Sterlite Group is headed by who's the promoter of Sterlite Industries? Big name. Who's the owner, promoter of Sterlite Industries? Anand Nia Anil Agarwal is the owner. Now, when the government came up with the Balco disinvestment proposal, Balco was a profit-making entity for the government of India, and that is why there was major opposition as to why a profit making entity is being disinvested. Then obviously there are political motives behind this, like Manvi rightly said that Jogi government in Chhattisgarh, it opposed the disinvestment. They actually cut the electric and water supply to the Balco plant also in opposition of this disinvestment. Then the around 7,000 employees, they were on strike, and they were not ready, they were not happy with the decision. But the new management, when it came in, it negotiated with the employees, and then after I think around 6 months, the strike came to an end. Now, obviously, there is a lot to debate about at what price was the disinvestment taking place, and was it a correct decision or not. But if you look at the performance of Sterlite today, then it is it is at a much better level than what Balco was performing. Obviously, again, there can be pros and cons behind this, because we compare the earnings of today, which I think are more than 10,000 CR, with that in 2000s, that itself will make a variance in the value. But this is one disinvestment decision that is going down in the history as being one of the most controversial privatizations. Okay, if I talk about the latest in the disinvestment process, then our government is in the process of disinvesting from Air India. Okay, and can anyone tell me at what stage is the government right now with respect to Air India disinvestment? Why is the government disinvesting from Air India? It is a national carrier. What is the objective? Now, Air India, Indian Airlines post merger, there have been again problems with the functioning of the airlines. Over the years, different governments have given number of relief packages, pumped in money in the airlines, but it's still not performing profitably. Now, if I say, then again उसमें carriers जो थे, जो Boeing's परचेज करे गए थे, बहुत ज़्यादा ओवर प्राइस थे, इसमें करप्शन के एलिगेशंस बहुत थे. So that will be a different case study if we discuss this airlines altogether. But in December, the bidding process was closed. One of the primary bidders was the Tata Group. And if you look at the history of Air India, it was actually floated by JRD Tata. And now Tata Group has shown interest in repurchase of Air India. Apart from that, it is a full circle in that sense. And three more bidders are there. One is a US based investment group, one is a consortium of Indian carriers. So, somewhere in a month or two, we'll get to know what is the status of disinvestment. But government is looking for a 100% disinvestment in Air India. Okay. So,
Ma'am,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt, but
yeah,
this
ma'am.
article from Mint, which was
Yeah,
dated for 29 December 2020, and it
yeah,
states that this time the government has proposed strategic disinvestment of 100% of its equity share capital.
yeah.
So, what does that mean, ma'am?
जो गवर्नमेंट का स्टेक है, गवर्नमेंट फुली एग्जिट कर रही है फ्रॉम एयर इंडिया. जैसे बहुत केसेस में होता है कि गवर्नमेंट लोअर करती है अपना इक्विटी स्टेक. अगर मैं LIC की बात करूं तो गवर्नमेंट ने लोअर करा स्टेक. से फॉर एग्जांपल, या IRCTC, we were discussing the other day that government had around say 85-86% stake. अब गवर्नमेंट ने जब डिसइन्वेस्ट करना शुरू करा तो पहला टारगेट था 10%, 5%, ऐसे करके वो इशू ला रही थी शेयर्स का. बट विद रिस्पेक्ट टू एयर इंडिया, गवर्नमेंट डज नॉट वांट एनी ओनरशिप नाउ. सो गवर्नमेंट इज गोइंग फॉर अ 100% disinvestment of its holding in Air India. Okay. So that is what the government is looking for now. Back in 2018, also the government put up the company for disinvestment. That time the response was not very good, but this time around the government has got response, and let's see. I think somewhere around the announcement of budget and the when budget will come out, we'll get to know what is the status of disinvestment in Air India. Okay, so we have discussed the merits already. बेसिकली फंड्स रेजिंग होती है और बेटर परफॉर्मेंस के लिए क्रिटिसिज्म हमेशा यही रहता है दैट इट इज इक्विवेलेंट टू सेलिंग फैमिली सिल्वर टू मीटिंग द शॉर्ट टर्म मॉनेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट्स. क्योंकि जनरली फिस्कल डेफिसिट मीट करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट करती है. And if that fiscal deficit is being financed by the proceeds from disinvestment, it is equivalent to selling of family silver to meet short-term requirements, because that is not a long-term solution to the fiscal deficit. Okay, and again किस जो monetary consideration involved है, किस price पर disinvestment हो रही है, all that creates controversies which we have seen in Balco's case also. Okay, and many a times जो companies में potential होता है, that is lost because it is moving from the government to the private hands. तो उस sense में there is a lost revenue for the government. Okay, so this is all about the disinvestment process. We'll stop here.